The most crucial moment in your life is facing truth. Good morning. One second. Good morning, good afternoon, or evening, or night, wherever you are. I hope you're doing well today. Today we're going to be speaking on a very crucial subject, and that is facing truth, developing love for the truth. Introduction. So the most crucial moment in your life is when you face truth. The good news is everyone gets the chance and gift of coming across truth. Some more than others, and these individuals are undeniably rich, and this could seem unfair. However, it isn't. Reason being, it's not about how much you have, but how you use what you have when you have it. An example of this is money. It's not how much money you have that makes you rich, per se, but it's how you use that money when you have the money. So when you are given truth, use it wisely. When you are gifted truth, cherish it. When you meet truth, respect it and treat it well. What's cool is that we all are fortunate to be practicing facing small truths on a day-to-day basis without even realizing it. And unconsciously, this prepares us to be ready for the day we will have to face truth. And I'm speaking about the totality of truth. The full truth, the truth about life, what life is. So the full, unfiltered, untampered, non-remix, unedited, unaltered truth. Why am I spending my time on this topic? I repeat, the most important moment in your life is when you will face truth. How you will respond to the totality of truth will determine the permanent outcome of your life. I repeat, the totality of truth. So we face small versions or doses of truth on a day-to-day basis, which is good, but one day we will be faced with a totality of truth of the world. A really good example of this, actually, is COVID-19. Before March 2019, there were doses, bits of truth coming out about the virus and how severe or serious or threatening this might be to us. Once COVID hit after 2019, the world was faced with a truth that it could not escape. Everyone was affected. Some people were able to take it well, others were not, right? That's an example. So I repeat myself, how you will respond to the totality of truth will determine the permanent outcome of your life. Getting a bit personal. The whole subject of truth has always, is currently, and will forever be so important and relevant to me because of 3 reasons. 1, truth is respectable. 2, truth is a point of reference and an anchor. And 3, truth is a blessing and security. Allow me to elaborate on these 3 reasons. So the first one, truth is respectable. I respect the truth, okay? And this is something that I did not realize right away. It's something that I've realized over time as I got older. When I started to pay more attention to where I invest my time, attention, and energy, when I started to realize I would really engage in honest conversations is when I realized that I cherished and respected the truth. And what you respect, you continuously appreciate. So because I continuously appreciate the truth, I respect it, all right? Why? Well, I appreciate that there is a truth that exists out there. Each one of us human beings, only this species can, maybe other species could relate, but that's besides the point. As human beings, we were not asked to be born. We were just born through our mother's womb, sent out in a field somewhere in the world, and boom, we just had to live and learn. As we get older, we age, we start to realize that the world is not as perfect as we thought it was. The world could be deceiving. It could feel like a maze. You at times will not know where you're going and don't know where you're going. We feel confused and lost at times. Sometimes we're unaware of our purpose. We don't know the whys. The point is, the world has always been a questionable place. Okay? We're just here and we're like, okay, what am I? Who are you? What are you saying to me? Okay, learning new language. Awesome. What do I do with this information? Okay, what do I want to do with my life? Like, the world has always been a questionable place in a positive and a negative sense. So in a positive sense, the world has great mysteries and wonders, so much that even if we lived 1,000 years, let's say that was like the normal human lifespan, 1,000 years, I still believe we would not be able to grasp it fully. That's how grand it is. And in a negative sense, well, in this world there exists evil. Lies, murder, crime, injustices, quarrel, disloyalty, cheating, anger, bitterness, jealousy, strife, haughtiness, discrimination. There's so much evil that exists as well. So the world is a questionable place in both the positive and negative sense. Which leads me to the second reason. The truth is a point of reference and anchor. So, despite the world being a questionable place in both the positive or negative sense, knowing that there is an absolute out there, an absolute truth, a truth that we can hold on to and say, yes, this is the truth. I may be doubtful or uncertain in most things, but this I know for sure. Right? Under conditions of uncertainty, urgency, or threat, I have a rock to hold on to. I'm anchored to an unchanging fact. And I say unchanging because truth does not change. Theories change over time, estimates change, opinions change, beliefs change, arguments change, agreements even change. But the truth never changes. It is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So knowing that there are unchanging facts is amazing. I'll give a few examples. So let's say, I don't know, I'm out in the world and I'm lost somewhere and I don't know who I am. I'm trying to find my identity and I don't know where to start. I don't know much about myself, but one thing I do know for sure is that my last name is Mayenge. If somebody came up to me and said, listen, you are not a Mayenge, you are a Smith, I'd be like, no. And that's what keeps me grounded. I can't be shaken, I can't be moved, because this fact I know for a fact. And that's what keeps me oriented. It's what keeps me anchored. It's my point of reference. I may be lost. I may not know who I am completely. But one thing for sure is that I am a Mayenge and this is the family line I come from. And that's a good start. Another example is, this is going to sound a little stupid, but a tree. A tree is a tree, no matter where you go. You know, you may be lost. You find yourself in a different continent, a different country, or maybe even a different globe or universe. If you recognize that there is a tree, you know that that's a tree. Why is that important information? Well, knowing that a tree is a tree releases information. Let's say I'm in a different country or I'm in a desert and I genuinely don't know where the heck I am, but I see a tree. I go, oh, there might be water nearby. This might mean that there is life nearby. What I'm trying to say is that truth keeps us oriented. We already live in a world filled with lies, uncertainties, inaccuracies, etc., etc. But at least with certain truths that we know will never change, it gives us a sense of orientation and security. So, this is why I say that truth is a point of reference and an anchor. Even if you have one small truth, that is still a good start for you to be anchored and grounded, and it's still a very good point of reference. The third reason is truth is a blessing and a security. I personally don't know what I would do if the truth didn't exist, and I am so happy it exists, even without asking it to exist. I generally consider its existence a blessing and a great source of hope. Again, we were just thrown out in a field in the world. We're just being bombarded with a bunch of information, being told what we should do or not do in a society and what we should deem okay and not okay, normal and not normal, you know what I mean? And without even knowing, without even asking, there's a truth roaming somewhere there, waiting for you to find it. I find that really cool. So to me, truth is a blessing for that reason. That without me even knowing what it is in the first place, or asking for it, it exists. That's a gift. I don't know how else to put it. So just to recap, the reason why this subject is so important to me on a personal level is because, one, the truth is respectable. I respect the truth. 2, the truth is a point of reference, an anchor. It really keeps us oriented and grounded. And 3, truth is a blessing and a security. Knowing that there is a truth out there makes you feel blessed. It makes you feel secure because you know that despite being confused or lost in the world, you still have hope and chance to find it. The truth is daunting. So now that I've established that the truth is a blessing, I just want to say something about that blessing. This blessing can be very daunting. Think of it, honestly, guys, I really want to help you guys start seeing the truth like gold. It is more expensive than any amount of money that human beings can put together. And so think of it in that sense. So why is the truth daunting? Well, 1, it rarely comes in a way that you expect. 2, it challenges you. I mean, at your core. It will challenge your whole being, your whole thinking process, everything. Most times, it will challenge you to let go of what you think is true and step out of that knowing and ask you to commit to it so that it can bring you to the real knowing. So it's very high risk. It demands a lot from you. It's something that people are not used to. So in other words, when the truth gets close to you, it can very easily make you start to feel nervous. The offer is just too great, but at the same time, it comes with high risk. It comes with high responsibility. A lot of people claim that they want to be rich. A lot of people claim that they want the truth. But once they have it in their hands, they will realize how daunting it is because of how grand it is. It could be considered a form of pressure, right? Most of us claim that we want the truth. You know, people will be like, yeah, no, I just want the truth, man. Give me the truth. Are you sure about that? I think that we say it because it is so rare to come by and it's easier said than experienced. But when you get close to it, or in some intense cases, it confronts you, whole different story. The truth is very heavy in pounds. I'm just kidding. It's just really heavy. The truth is very intimidating. It is daunting, and it requires a lot of honesty, responsibility, accountability. It's a very high risk, high demanding thing. Why is it so intense? Because the truth comes as is. It's transparent, it's unshakable, it's unchanging, it's unmoving. It is what it is, and there is nothing you can do about it. It gives it to you right there and then, in full. It does not give itself in doses. Well, sometimes it does, in some cases, but even the small doses it gives us is too much for most of us to bear. But the point is that it doesn't restrain itself, pretend, or alter itself. It's just there, and you have to be able to respond to it properly as it confronts you. And people are just not used to this. A lot of people say they want it, but I fear that many people are not prepared for it. I'll throw in an example, a negative one, because I find that we remember the negatives more than the positives, unfortunately. And it will help make the point. You find out that your partner is cheating. Hits you in the stomach, but it is what it is. You may have had your ideas, you may have had fantasies, you may have had hopes for the future, and all of that is destroyed, and there's nothing you can do about it. You have to take that raw, bitter truth. The fact that it hits you in the face that hard and there's nothing you can do is what's intense, right? Now, the truth is not always bitter. It's not meant to make you uncomfortable. That's not the point. It's not the motive of truth. Truth is, see it as a person who wants to better you. It's not there to scorn you, to look down on you. It's just letting you know what things are for your own good. All that to say that the truth is just there, and you will have to be able to respond to it properly as it confronts you. And again, people are not used to this, especially in this day and age, where we are conditioning everyone to say what people want to hear, tickle their ears, sugarcoat things, flatter them. People who are accustomed to that or who accept this way of living will have a very hard time facing truths that come up in the near future. They will have a very hard time facing the ultimate truth when it shows up to the world one day. Anyway, let us move forward and dive into the subject. Facing the truth, developing love, or the skill of loving the truth. Okay, so there are two key points I want to address and encourage in today's session. The first is practicing facing truths on a smaller scale. And the second point is learning how to confront the truth on a bigger scale. The goal is to help you prepare for dealing with the truth, whether it approaches you or confronts you, because it is crucial to understand what happens when you encounter the truth and how you should respond to it. As I mentioned earlier, how you respond to the truth determines your permanent life outcome. It determines your results. Your response dictates whether you receive blessings for acknowledging it and addressing it correctly, or curses for avoiding it and addressing it incorrectly. So, as some of us know, and if you didn't know, well, now you know, in life, we regularly encounter either blessings or curses as we navigate the truth on a daily basis. This is why the topic is of utmost importance. Okay? So before we dissect the two key points, I am going to share my background story to build a little context. And yeah, before I delve into the heart of this subject, let me share with you a brief background story to offer some context. To grasp the essence of what drives these thoughts and actions, I have to share the role that truth has played in my life. So, I was raised by my father, who had the challenging task of raising 4 children, all on his own. So, time and resources were scarce, and he couldn't divide himself into 4 as much as he may have wanted to. And he often joked about this. So this is just, of course, a typical scenario that illustrates the challenges that broken families face. In these situations, individual attention to each child often falls short, right? So given my father's limitations, he devised a unique approach to parenting, which I think could be very helpful. He aimed to instill in us a profound love for the truth. And I have to emphasize the word love here, okay? Now, before I continue, let's explore the nature of love a little bit. Basically, love is an intense feeling or deep affection. It basically is like having a strong interest or pleasure. It involves strong interest or pleasure in something. Love is what makes us admire, become attached to, or be devoted to something. So, in essence, everything I just described about love, my father was teaching us to apply to the concept of truth. He wanted us to develop an attitude of admiration, devotion, and deep affection towards the truth, finding pleasure in it, like literally. So, why did he do this? Well, let's face it, our world does not welcome the truth with open arms, right? Quite the opposite. In fact, truth is often seen as something repulsive, very rejected by many. It's perceived as something people tend to flee from. So my father's mission was to counter this natural human tendency to shy away from the truth, and in worst cases, like plainly reject it, and replace it with a welcoming attitude towards it. So he was dedicated to instill this mindset in our hearts and minds. He would say, apologetically, of course, like, obviously paraphrasing here, listen, like, my darlings, I can only do so much as a man, right? I'm not the best father, or a perfect example for you all. So it's my fault that I couldn't provide you a more comfortable life due to poor decisions and ignorance and our limited resource. So this means that life won't be easy for you unless you abandon your morals. Take the easy way out by compromising your integrity or become ruthless and greedy wolves. He would say that those paths won't lead to lasting well-being. All of y'all need to learn to live an honest, humble, and simple life using discretion, discernment, and obedience by building character. And the foundation of building such strong character, he emphasized, is to love the truth. Why? Well, consider this. If you master the skill of loving the truth, if you develop an unwavering, unshakable affection for it, and if you possess the ability to accept things as they are while maintaining emotional control and self-discipline, even when those truths are painful or uncomfortable, you'll stand apart, right? It's not very common for people to take very harsh truths very well. We all know that. I don't need to add more to that. We all know that. So, most people struggle to handle the truth. They don't know how to respond to it, often reacting in ways that can ruin their lives. Avoidance, cowardice, I hope I said that right, or turning to unhealthy coping mechanisms like drugs, alcohol, excessive casual sex, which, I completely understand and relate to, so I don't judge. Actually, have you ever heard of the quote by Jack Sparrow from the Pirates of the Caribbean? That goes, "The problem isn't the problem is your attitude about the problem." Well, yeah, so that's what my father was trying to teach us. He wanted us to understand that the world is not a fairy tale. He would always say that. He was like, "This is not a Disney movie. This is not a kumbaya thing." Right? So he wanted us to understand that the world is not a fairy tale. It's not a place of fantasy, but a reality filled with amazing, but also harsh truths that can hurt us. It can be filled with, yes, good, amazing truths, but it also comes with harsh truths that can hurt, disappoint, traumatize us, steal our joy, destroy us, and in some cases even kill us. There's some truths that some human beings hide because they know that if it comes out, they're dead, right? It can literally kill. So the point is, he used to say that life is not a fantasy. It's a reality filled with harsh truths. However, with the right mindset, the right mental setting, with mental fortitude, we can face these harsh truths, adapt to them, and maintain control over our lives. We can endure whatever comes before us and hold our peace. We can maintain the power and control that we have. To him, building strong character meant to be adaptable in any circumstance without complaint or destruction. Essentially, building strong character means being adaptable in any circumstance without complaint or destruction. It requires a genuine acceptance of the truth. That is the base. If you're rich, praise God. If you're poor, praise God. If you possess beauty, praise God. If you don't possess beauty, praise God. You will find an alternative. If you happen to have intelligence, praise God. If you do not have intelligence, praise God. You will find an alternative. So, whether you are rich or poor, beautiful or not, intelligent or not, etc., you must take life as is, raw and unfiltered, without resorting to addictions or delusions to cope. You need to face it head on and figure it out without grumbling and harboring resentment. So going back to what he would say to us, I want to add that he would also say, which is quite important, I'm not always going to be there to protect you. I'm not always going to be there to advise, comfort, or guide you guys. But if you love the truth, it will provide all of these things for you, no matter where life takes you. I don't care about your current state, appearance, identity, because when you've developed a deep love for the truth and made it your anchor, you'll be set for life. The truth never fails. He was a person that was very confident in where we would go. His confidence stemmed from the fact that we loved the truth. He believed that when you make the truth your absolute, you'll be fine. It's a foundation and a law that you will never break because you've set that for yourself. My father didn't dwell on the poor state or condition that we were in when he shared these words. He didn't rely on what his eyes could see. He literally embodied the famous biblical saying, "For we live by faith and not by sight." Like, he literally had an unwavering belief that a love for the truth would keep anyone safe and provide them with hope. And I can attest that this belief is profoundly true. I've made my fair share of mistakes, some of which most people can't even imagine. Let's just say I've ventured off the path. But one day I grew tired of the reckless way of living. So I decided to rekindle the love I once had for the truth before I chose to willingly reject it and create my own fantasy world. So since then, my life has transformed for the better, with each day bringing incremental improvements. So I'm at peace because I know that when you make the truth your absolute, it becomes your point of reference. It anchors you. It anchors you no matter how lost you may be in life. It's really similar to a relationship between a couple. You know, love keeps people anchored to one another. Even if they temporarily drift apart due to certain truths they must face and aren't ready to face in that time, in time, they reconnect without a doubt. Without a doubt. This I say without a doubt. So, as long as my siblings and I love the truth, my father could rest assured because it was only a matter of time before we would be enlightened. You see, life can be long for some and short for some. During this time, we can experience either heaven or hell on earth. Regardless of how trendy it may be to mock God, heaven, and hell on the internet, I'm telling you, nobody truly desires to experience hell. Just think of your worst physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual battle and how painful they were. That is only a fraction of what hell could be, okay? And might as well throw this out there because it's true. Real hell is, in its simplest form, being permanently separated from God, unable to hear, connect with Him, or seek forgiveness from Him, especially during times when we desperately need Him. The world is rapidly changing, and I'm telling you, we will all need Him very soon. So, anyway, my father repeated this message, not just daily, but like literally, if not on a day-to-day basis, it was for sure a week-to-week basis. It was repeated so much that it became the standard and law of our household. So, to improve the odds in your favor, okay, embrace the pursuit of truth. For at some point, you're destined to encounter it. You'll feel an intense, desperate yearning to uncover the truth when that moment arrives. I'm telling you, it happens to all of us. Everyone's appointed to meet the truth at some point in time. You are scheduled to meet with the truth. You will notice that all of a sudden, you have a deep, desperate, and earnest longing to find the truth. And when that truth comes by, to give you its time of the day, which is a blessing and a gift, by the way, and says, hello, if you react well, your confusion, pain, agony, etc., any type of suffering that you endure can turn over. Please remember what I mentioned earlier, that at first, the truth is daunting. Embracing the truth can be very overwhelming at first. It will taste very bitter in your mouth and feel heavy in your stomach. And everyone processes it differently because of many different factors that I won't get into today. But if you submit to the truth, you'll be saved. You'll find salvation. So, very quick side note. Very quickly, I just want to say this as a word of encouragement. If you are a parent, sibling, friend, or anyone for that matter, don't be afraid or feel guilty about being honest with someone. even if their initial response is negative, rejection, keeping a distance, whatever. In time, they will appreciate your honesty because it brings clarity and resolution at some point, right? The truth always prevails. It always has the last word. It never, ever fails. So trust in its power, trust in its ability. Have a little faith. And I think what really helps is really keep in mind that people have their own pace. You shouldn't take people's response to you sharing a truth personally. I find that when we take things too personally, we're putting too much attention on ourselves. We pay attention to how I feel or how can they talk to me in that way. Don't even think of it that way. Truth is not easy, is hard for everyone. I think we need to learn to actually expect a negative response more than we expect a good one. Just be patient. Again, trust in its power. Remember that people have their own pace. Respect their pace, respect their journey, even when they oppose you. Our world doesn't prepare us from the truth. Unfortunately, it has fed us lies for most of our lives. So yeah, different food is not always going to resonate or sit well in the stomach of a person because it's not used to it. So don't give up. Be patient. At some point in our lives, we reach a breaking point anyway where we're desperate to face the truth. We're tired of living in deception and we then want to seek change. And to get on the other side, we must embrace the truth. It's going to happen regardless. So be patient. Don't worry about it. He basically tried to say that love is more than just an abstract concept. Love is alive and active. And once it dwells within you, it will guide your decisions, help you distinguish between right and wrong, who to avoid, and where to go and not to go. Love for the truth transforms you over time, just like the confusing phase many experience during their teenage years, where they seek their identity. We must separate truth from lies about ourselves to truly find out who we are. When in that phase, we're lost, just completely lost. We don't know who we are. We experience identity and existential crisis. We are in a discovery phase. For some, this phase can stretch to their adult years. Some are not to blame, while others are. It really depends on the background of a person. For instance, some people are born impoverished. They don't have enough resources to gain knowledge, and lack of knowledge makes people perish. While others are born privileged, but have a rotten attitude. They neglect or reject or overlook the resources that they have, which gives them access to truth. And in such cases, obviously, there is no doubt that they are to be blamed. But anyways, so what I mean here is that it's not just an abstract concept. It is literally power, force, energy, or nature. It's a substance. Power, force, energy, nature, substance are literally alive and active. This is why some say that not everyone is born with love. And it's true, because it is literally a limited substance. Not many living beings possess it, and those who have it can see it, sense it, can tell when someone has it or not, literally. So anyway, love is a force. Once it abides in you, it will move you. It becomes part of you once it abides in you. And what's cool about it is that as time goes on, something transcending happens. A nature change occurs in the person. Their character literally changes. They become a new living creature. They have new taste, new longings, new dreams, new desires, etc., etc. A great way to understand the truth a bit better is to compare it to life, specifically in a pregnant woman. So comparing truth to a pregnancy. I know it sounds a little random, but hear me out. Listen to this. When a woman is pregnant, there is obviously new life living within her, and that new life makes her crave things that she's never craved before. It may make her go in directions she has never gone before. It may change her taste, style, mood, etc., etc. You get the point. Truth works in the exact same way. I want to add that if you want the truth to live in you, you have to develop love for it first. To allow truth to abide in you, you must develop a love for it, as we don't willingly welcome what we don't love, right? We don't intentionally welcome things we don't like. We do not open the door to things we hate. We shut out what we don't want. If you do not learn to love the truth, it cannot abide in you because you're not welcoming it, right? And one thing about truth, I'll tell you this right now, it don't force nobody. All it can do is be itself. Either you take it or you leave it. It's never going to force you to like it. It's never going to force you to keep it, to take it, to side with it, to favor it. It's just, again, it's going to be there, and either you take it or leave it. Very quick, subtle, and golden truth I want to share with you guys. Quick tip. If there is a piece of information that you have been applying and it is not producing change, it is most likely not the truth. One great way to recognize the truth is when you see it is alive and active. Again, truth is a literal force. It literally is alive and active. You need to stop seeing the truth as just an abstract, but as an entity, a spirit, a person. It's a literal substance, a substance that has the ability to produce an effect, right? So the substance in a perfume produces an effect of smell. The substance in medication produces an effect as well, relieving a cough, relieving swelling, lowering pressures, etc., etc. Truth, it's a substance that has the ability to produce an effect. For example, if someone says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize," if there's no truthful intent behind it, the person will keep doing it again and again. If there is truthful intent behind it, change will be produced. It will produce change. It's alive and active. This is a really great way to determine if someone is being honest with you or not. If they say something and it's actually moving in the way that they said it would move, it is the truth. Sounds so basic and easy, but you'll be surprised how many people neglect the simple and basic things. Unfortunately, become very proudful as a people, too proud to listen to what appears to be small, simple, or basic. All of that yada 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 was to say that life is challenging, but you must face it unless you take the easy way out. Building character requires developing a love for the truth. With this love, you'll face hardships and unexpected circumstances with resilience. Developing the skill is crucial as it helps you confront suffering, life's sufferings, challenges, obstacles, etc., making you nearly invincible. Okay? I'm talking you will survive the highest forms of agony, pain, confusion, hurt, cries, and still survive. Mastering the skill of loving the truth will make you immortal. These two keys will help you to develop the love for the truth. So I'm excited. Like, I'm seriously excited for you. Like, really. So let's talk about this. I'll be focused on two things. One, practicing to face the truth. Two, learning how to face the truth. So let's start with the first point, practicing facing truths on a smaller scale. It is important to learn to embrace truths now. Why? Because this preps us. It literally is training us to receive and respond to the truth better each and every single day. And we do this on a day-to-day basis, unconsciously, without knowing. And that's awesome. That means that we've already been training. And I'm going to give a few examples of those things that we already practice. And some of us, we still have a hard time practicing. So I encourage you to try to really master all of these. In order for you to develop the love for the truth, you must learn to embrace truth by starting small. First and foremost, check your grades promptly. If you're a student, in any context, don't shy away, don't avoid it, don't wait till tomorrow, just open it. Get used to that discomfort, get used to moving forward, moving past the nervousness, the fear, or the doubt. Secondly, open intimidating emails and text messages. Those emails, those letters, those text messages that you're avoiding, you need to face them and face them now. Just do it. Do the hardest thing. If you can do the hardest thing, you can do the hardest thing. Like, that's crazy. That's really encouraging. Thirdly, share your feelings openly, despite potential reactions. We need to come to a point where we go, you know what? I don't care. I don't care. Okay? I don't care what people think. I don't care what people say. I don't care what the worldly standard is. What will make people mock me or not agree with me? If this is how I feel, I'm going to say it to this person. If I'm a simp, I'm a simp. If they think I'm weak, they think I'm weak. If whatever they think is none of my business, I'm going to tell this person how I feel. And if this person does not react in the way that I expect, I'm going to have to figure it out when that happens. All right. So that's the mentality you want to have. Just share your feelings openly despite potential reactions. Like, telling the truth is honestly the most boldest, bravest, kingly, queenly thing you can do. Like, imagine only speaking what you truly feel, how far that can get you. Fourthly, confront your bills, your debt, and tax letters. I know this is a hard one. It's very nagging. It's a lot, but it has to be done. Again, going back to the idea of doing the hardest thing. If you can do the hardest thing, you can do the hardest thing. Fifthly, evaluate your physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. You'll be surprised to know how many people avoid this. People do not like to have their physical, mental, or spiritual bodies assessed. They're too afraid to learn they might be facing or experiencing some form of illness, condition, infirmity, and they're just not ready to face it. But in doing so, you may worsen in that illness condition that you don't want to expose yourself to. And I think it's one of the hardest things to face because, well, what's the whole point of life? It's to be alive. That's what humans want, ultimately. Nobody wants to die. So people tend to shy away from, run away from, and refuse to even think about the idea of death. That's what makes health so relevant. It's one of the biggest industries I think it's the biggest, the greatest industry in our world, right? The whole world is going through a health crisis at the moment. Life is literally about health. People have trouble facing these things, and so people have a hard time with this one. Many people struggle when addressing their health due to its direct connection to life and death, It's literally the essence of our human existence. It has everything to do with our human existence. That's where all the answers lie. The fear of mortality is a powerful thing. It's a powerful motivator. It leads to unusual and uncomfortable, uneasy reactions when health-related matters are brought up. And this is because these discussions require confronting not only challenging, but the most challenging reality. And people often shy away from discovering potential illness, conditions, or infirmities because acknowledging these issues will require them to take action, right? Health is of utmost importance. Literally, it's the most important thing. It's literally tied to our very existence, okay? The saying, health is wealth, is not just a pretty saying. It holds true, not merely as a phrase, but because health genuinely embodies our health and vitality, right? Like, even when you look at it in the context of, I hate to say this word, religion, okay? And I hate it because I know that religion is a very controversial and tricky word, very humanly influenced. But in the context of God, right? When you look at the story of Christ, what was he doing? Healing people from illnesses. He was restoring people. The very famous question, the very famous point of his existence was, would you like me to make you whole? And people don't recognize these things and don't notice these things because, again, nobody wants to even think about health. Sixthly, encourage people to be honest with you. Ask for constructive feedback. Really change your mind on gaining different perspectives. Don't look at it as a bad thing. Look at it as a wonderful thing. You should be begging people to give you their opinions. You can learn so much from different perspectives. It's not even funny. I think the fastest way to grow is to really open yourself up and listen to what people have to say. If it applies, you take it. If it doesn't, you leave it. It's really not that hard. It's very simple. Seventhly, speak up for yourself. This is not as easy as it sounds. A lot of people don't have that in them. A lot of people are mute. A lot of people are dumb. I am referring to being temporarily unable or unwilling to speak, right? It's a person that's unheard. It's a person that's silent. That's what I mean. You have to learn to speak up for yourself. And I don't mean this in a rebellious, unnecessary way. Don't talk just to talk. In fact, don't do that, right? I encourage you not to do that. I'm talking about moments where you find it absolutely vital or absolutely necessary to speak up, because speaking up is a question of life or death, or defending someone, or being a true witness to something that happened. Eighthly, don't fear failing or looking foolish in front of others. Listen to me. Listen to me, guys. Listen very carefully, okay? If you, please believe me, if you have the quality of not having a problem with being in humiliation or being embarrassed, if you don't easily get embarrassed, oh my goodness, you're going to have a really great time. You're going to go places you've never expected to go. You're going to meet people you've never expected to meet. You're going to go so far. What gives a person the ability to do this is to be humble. Sounds so simple, but let me break it down, okay? You have to have the ability to not look at yourself too seriously. You have to be able to not think too much about you. Don't be so fixated on your appearance, your reputation, your ego. Like, it's not that serious. No one really cares. You know what I mean? Like, you're not putting up a show. This is not a runway show. This is not the red carpet. You know what I mean? Like, really just putting yourself out of the question. And you know what? Having this mentality will really free you. I'm telling you, what goes on in your mind when you're under that influence is it's just really nice. It's very smooth. You're not constantly being self-conscious. You're not worried about what people are thinking of you. You're not too worried about what you said, what you didn't say, how you look. You don't care. You're just so focused on things that inspire you, things that encourage you, things that move you, things that you admire. You're so focused on, you give space to better thoughts when you don't fear failing or looking foolish in front of others. When you are truly humble, man, you live a free life. That's where you find your mental peace. So I had to emphasize on this one because, in fact, I think that if you can master this one point alone, this is you don't have to listen to the rest of the video. You're good to go. You're good to go. We can wrap this up. Okay? Ninthly, remain true to yourself, even if it invites criticism or rejection. This somewhat relates to the third point, which is to share your feelings openly despite potential reactions. But it's a slightly different because this emphasizes being. Sharing how you feel is about what you think in the moment, because feelings, emotions change. Sometimes you think you're feeling a certain way. You are possessed by an emotion, but it's not really part of your being. It's just a temporary thing that attached on you, and once your mind cleared, it went away. Remaining true to yourself, even if it invites criticism or rejection, is different because you are you all the time. This is something that you cannot change. So, there are some people in the world who absolutely cannot be vulnerable. They can't show their true selves no matter what, whether that be in putting makeup on or putting up a whole new identity. This is because these people are not content. They're not okay. They're just not okay with how they were born. They've rejected that. So when I say remain true to yourself, even if it invites criticism or rejection, what I'm saying is that you have to know who you are. Once you see who you are, you have to accept it. You have to learn to love it. You have to learn to respect it. You have to learn to make the best out of it. And you have to invest in it. Okay? You have to remain true to yourself. And if people don't like it, they criticize it, they reject it, too bad. Like, really make it a mission to stay true to yourself no matter what. And out of curiosity, wouldn't you want to know how far you could go? Wouldn't you want to live a life where you are fully being yourself and you gain this sense of freedom, this mental freedom, and that mental freedom will unlock the chains of paranoia, self-consciousness, peer pressure, which will allow you to live in a way that you can't even imagine. I'm telling you, the most bravest, most interesting, most adventurous thing that you can do in life is to decide, you know what? I'm just going to be myself and I'm going to see where it goes. Why not? why not? Why not take the biggest risk ever in life and just see where it goes? Let's see how crazy you are. Let's see how brave or savage you are, since some of you like to take pride in that. Let's see how bold you are. Be yourself. So the point is, take these opportunities that we have on a day-to-day basis, because you can practice to remain true to yourself, whether it invites criticism or rejection, while you are socializing with people. You can evaluate your physical and mental and spiritual health if you just make a call and book an appointment. You can open your texts, your emails, share your feelings openly despite potential reaction. All of these things you have the opportunity to practice every single day that you wake up. So the point is, practice, practice, practice. Because one day, the truth may come to meet you unannounced, without booking an appointment with you, and you must be prepared to face it gracefully. Learning to face truth. How do you face the truth? Well, the good news is there are only two ways to face the truth. There are only two ways to handle the truth. There are only two ways to respond to the truth. So it's really not complicated. It's not complicated. What makes it feel complicated is us not being used to accepting the truth. There's only two ways. It boils down to one or the other. It is a very black or white situation, yes or no situation, hot or cold situation, in or out situation. It is zero sum. There's no in the middle. And by the way, quick side note, this is a very good indicator you're facing truth. It will leave you cornered in some sense, not because it wants to trap you, but because it can't be anything but itself, which is truth. So yes, there are only two ways to face the truth. Either you face it with ego, or you face it with humility. So yeah, that's it. End of video. Goodbye. I'm just kidding. Yeah, those are the two ways, ego or humility. There's no other way to face the truth. When the truth is in front of you, whatever entity you are possessed by in that moment will respond to it. So either it's facing you while you're filled with ego, or it's facing you while you're filled with humility. What does that mean? You probably should work on that. You should really work on killing your ego right now before it happens, and really start to cultivate humility. Because you don't know when it's going to show up. And you don't want to be possessed by ego in that moment. Because as we will learn very soon, the way ego reacts to truth is not acceptable. It's not acceptable. Whereas humility's response is acceptable. Sounds so basic and simple, right? Well, guess what? Another quick side note, another hint about truth. It absolutely loves to hide in simplicity. Truth usually I'm talking like 9 times out of 10 will hide in simplicity. I'm talking like plain sights where most of us don't want to look at or overlook because we have a little bit of pride or entitlement in us. Remember how I mentioned earlier that the truth comes in ways that we don't expect? This is what I'm referring to. It often hides in simplicity. And most times, people don't expect that because we live in a world where we've been taught that what you respect is what has a big name, what has titles, what has status, what has money. It's always focused on fame, popularity, and attention. So people who have this idea that that is the only place you can find answers, of course they're going to miss the truth. Because the truth, and it does it on purpose, by the way, the truth does this on purpose. It purposefully hides in simplicity, in plain sight, so that it can purposefully, literally fool those who think they're wise in this world. This is why there are cases where you have a very high intellectual person with PhDs and MDs and all that, and all of those beautiful titles that most people bow down to in the society, who get fooled. Who are actually foolish in a different way, who actually miss the point. This happens often, actually. So for now, just know that when it comes to the truth, it is not in its personality to come extravagantly. I don't know if that's a word, by the way. But this is why most people miss it, or deny it, or reject it. because they're expecting something huge and immense and popular, famous. And sometimes people do not realize that they look down upon it. And this type of reaction stems from the ego. It stems from pride. It stems from that sense of entitlement. Why would I listen to you? You don't have a name. Why would I listen to you? You don't have your life together. Why would I listen to you? You don't got no status. And unfortunately, these are the people who completely miss the point. They think that they're rich. They think that they're clothed. They think that they're set, when in reality, they're poor, they're miserable, and they're naked. And they don't even know it. Isn't that crazy? It's very interesting. I just had to throw that detail in so you can start familiarizing yourself with the truth. A way to familiarize or to get to know a person is by picking up on little information about them, their tendencies and their style and things of that sort. So yes, there are only two ways to face the truth. Either you face it with ego or you face it with humility. Back to the only two ways of facing the truth. First, I'll describe and define both spirits, ego and humility. Then I'll explain the outcome of reacting to truth with ego and with humility. All right, let us start with, excuse me, I think I burped. Let us start with ego. So, very quickly, there is a course that we are selling, and it talks about all of the different elements that come with character. And ego and humility is one of these components. I'm so sorry. We discuss this in great detail, so if you are interested, sign up, put in your email, so that when we do release it, you are notified right away. But when it comes to ego, a good question to ask and to just put out in the air to make us ponder and investigate or observe or assess what ego is the following question. What is the cause to a person's handicap, paralyzed state, fall, destruction, or death? Now, I really want to be clear. The words that are associated with ego in this question are handicap, paralyzed, fall, destruction, death. So this question already says a lot about the nature of ego. So I'm just going to go through a couple of meanings of ego to answer that question. Ego is the I. It's the sense of self on steroids. Okay? A second meaning of ego is self-illusion. So it's the way in which you see yourself. So ego can be represented as a version of you that's not necessarily the true version of you. Some people do possess multiple personalities, multiple personas. Depending on who they're with, will turn on one persona or personality, and that's just how it goes. So this version of self is an illusion. It's not the real self. Another definition is a self contrasted with another self. Very related to the second definition I just described. It's basically a self that is apart from another self. And the fourth definition is a substance that comes from fear, doubt, and insecurity. So let me just quickly say a little bit about this. Ego is the number one problem and disease the human race faces. Please do not ignore what I just said. It's truly an issue here. This is not something that is just said to sound nice. It's not something that's just said to sound intelligent or be, come off as impressive. It's a legitimate issue that the human race faces. Ego is the number one problem, and I'd say physical, mental, and spiritual disease the human race faces. If you're detailed or observant, or study history, you'll notice that any great in history, whether it be in real time or not, so like real life characters like Hitler, Mussolini, etc., or story or movie characters, right? The root to their downfall has always been ego, pride, which I believe is the root cause to humanity's downfall, by the way. Like, in general. Like, if we even go back to the beginning, Genesis, the actual problem that Eve and Adam faced, the first issue, the first weakness that entered the human mind was ego. The second Eve doubted God's word and listened to another voice and she committed her sin, is because she, instead of putting God's voice first, she started to focus more on herself, her needs, what she wanted. And in result, the whole human race fell, and Adam also fell. So ego, or pride, is the root cause of the degeneration of human character. And think about it. I mentioned that our Father was really big on building character. And what was the foundation of building character? Truth. When you have, let's say, in this case of Adam and Eve, you have God, okay? A being that doesn't lie to you. Tell you something and asks you not to break or disrespect it. And you, in response, go, I don't really want to accept this right now. Instead, I'll choose to listen to another voice, which was the voice of lies, the devil. That is what causes the degeneration of human character. That's what causes issues. That is what, as I mentioned earlier, will make you throw your morals out of the window, take the easy way out by selling yourself or becoming a ruthless, greedy wolf. Ego is the root cause of the degeneration of human character. And any solution that does not deal with human character is promised to fail, by the way. If you don't deal with that, which is the root problem of the human race, don't ever expect a long-lasting solution. You will only get a band-aid solution. Temporary and not really helping. So anyways, hence why I'm working on this character development program. If some of you are interested in learning more about it, the link is in the bio. I'll put some links up here so that you can check it out. It's not available yet. It will be released on January 1st, but you can sign up, enter your email, and you will be notified when the course is out. But anyways, let's go back to ego. The words I wanted to highlight are fear, doubt, and insecurity. This is very important, and let's keep that in mind. But for now, let's move on to humility. What is humility? What makes up a person's identity? So what is humility? Humility is controlled. It's a controlled greatness. It is a quiet strength. It is free from pride, arrogance, vanity, and wanting dominion over others. It is a humble confidence, and it is the quality of being truthful, assured, accepting of reality, and content. If this is you, or this is what you would permit yourself to admit you would want to be, good news. You are literally destined for greatness. I'm actually genuinely excited for you, because when truth comes knocking at the door of your mind or heart, you will know how to welcome it and treat it. And you will feel no shame, no doubt, no fear, no insecurity because of that humble confidence quality. So I want to highlight that humility is not arrogant. Humility is able to admit, okay, I'm not so great, or I may not be as strong as I'd wish to be, but this is what I am and this is what it is. That quality will easily accept truth. Because if you have the ability to admit that you are not as good as you wish to be or think you are, you already have this natural thirst and hunger to learn what can make you better. The truth, when confronted with a humble spirit, will bless it with its security package, which is absolutely everything human beings seek. I'll describe more about that nature of truth in a bit so you can learn to recognize it better, but going back to humility, humility is this controlled excellence. It's this quiet strength. It's this humble confidence. It is able to go, you know what? I can admit that I don't know everything. I may not know it all. I don't have all the answers. No matter how great I am today, no matter how great I think I am, or I believe to be, no matter how much prestige, titles, or social points I've accumulated in my life, no matter how much education I've attained in my life, no matter how much money I have saved in the bank, no matter how high in status I am today, I can put myself in a lowly position to receive truthful feedback or information that I don't know yet because of this quiet strength. I possess within me a freedom of pride and arrogance. I have this humble confidence that if I admit I don't know, I know I'm still worthy. If you have this kind of attitude, every time truth confronts you, I want to let you know you are destined for greatness. I repeat, you are going to receive the crown of life, because when it comes by, you won't feel insecure. Listen, truth is very attracted to humility, okay? When it comes by and it can perceive that you don't feel insecure or some type of way when standing in front of it, you will be ready. You will be ready for it. You will receive it. You will face it boldly but respectfully. You won't feel insecure or some type of way in front of it, because the truth can be very daunting. It can show you, wow, I'm not as good as I thought I was, or I'm a little bit more pathetic than I thought, or, the truth is whole. It's impressive, it's admirable, and if you have humility, you can welcome it and it will welcome you. It will do anything in its power to exalt you because it genuinely likes that. It's very attracted to humility. Going back to what I said, when it comes by, you will have this attitude where you're like, you came as you are, thank you, now I come as I am. Let's work together. I'm letting you in. Please, I insist, help me make me better. Let's do this. Like, what kind of collaboration can, you, the truth, and I do together? With the right character, it produces great things. I'm telling you. They have a wonderful marriage together. So, before I get into the outcomes of both spirits, quick side note to ponder on your own time. Let's go back to ego, okay? If there's one thing you must remember about ego, let it be this. It stems from fear, doubt, and insecurity. Did you hear that? I'm going to repeat it. Fear, doubt, insecurity. It's very easy to spot in a person. And I practice identifying this all the time. Doesn't matter how nice a person is, how nice their words are. If when I am reading them by looking through them and I spot pride, fear, or insecurity, I know who I'm dealing with right away. Sometimes I even catch it in myself. And because I personally don't want it in me, I scorn it right away and attack it with the truth to kill it right away, because we all experience it. Some of us are just more self-aware than others, so they have that ability to catch these things in them right away and know how to deal with it. So again, keywords when it comes to ego: fear, doubt, insecurity. Why the emphasis? Well, because it will help you identify people who may be possessed with that spirits through these three things: fear, doubt, and insecurity. I'm going to say this. In life, never deposit your trust in material or tangible things. Don't put your security in these things. Don't do that. If there's one thing that was positive about the COVID lockdowns that happened in 2019, it was a glimpse of loss. We had a taste of, or a sample of, raw loss. And that global truth that faced all of us, whether we liked it or not, it was there and we had to deal with it, exposed our character. Who are you when you don't have a job anymore? When your status means very little? When you lose money or have none at all? When you lose all control? When an authoritative principality or faculty tells you, no, you cannot step out of your house. How do you behave? When you have no choice to depend on another source, force, or person, and you have no other choice. Like, most of us had literally no choice other than to lean on to the authoritative power. How do you react when you have little choice? How do you act through hard circumstances? Will you lose your sense of security because you lost your job? Because you lost your status, your money, your position? Will you let fear, doubt, or insecurity creep in? Will you feel insecure because all of these things were stripped away from you? How will you react? In another video, if you want, I'll talk about where people should put their security and why. But the answer is short. It's in character. If you really want to have long-lasting security, this means that no matter what the circumstances are, whether something is taken away from you or given to you, if you experience something that you like or don't like, if you're poor or rich, it doesn't matter. With good character, you can literally endure everything, and you, in a sense, lack nothing because you know how to handle every situation. You know what I mean? If I'm poor, I can handle it. I'll figure out a way. If I'm rich, I can handle it. I don't let it get to my head. You can endure everything and you lack nothing. Whereas if a person puts all of their identity, all of their security on these material things, the day that all these things are gone, these people don't know what to do with themselves. They're not trained to endure hardship. And now they feel like they lack everything, right? So someone with good character can be poor, rich, small, tall, dumb, intelligent, ugly, pretty, whatever. It will still pass the test of time and heat. It will receive its deserved honor and glory. Because the ability to endure hardship and suffering is impressive in itself. An example of this is athletes. Like, when you think about it, it's actually insane what athletes do. Especially like professional national athletes. They literally suffer willingly. Their bodies are being beat up almost every single day to perform better in these hard circumstances when playing the sport, and they get recognition for it, right? So when COVID happened, it was just such a good moment in history for all of us. You know, while it happened, it wasn't so easy, but with time, I started to realize that it was the perfect opportunity for all of us to be exposed to the truth of the world, which is there are principalities, there are faculties that have more authoritative power than you, and at any given second, if they say something, you may have to bow down. That's an uncomfortable thought, but it's a fact. It was also an opportunity for our character to be exposed. This is when a lot of people who live together or under the same roof, lots of couples, married couples as well, found out, oh my goodness, this is how you are? I don't want to live with you anymore. I can't stand you. So it really gave us the opportunity to see people's true colors and to see our own colors, to see how we react under pressure, how we react when things aren't going our way, when we react when things are being stripped away from us. Personally, me at the time, at the very beginning, this was at the very end of my peak of folly. I personally felt diminished, completely naked, weak. My whole identity was gone. I realized that it doesn't matter how much money I was making or what beautiful homes I lived in. I was a horrible person. I was miserable, you know. These things didn't necessarily quench my thirst, and I think COVID was able to expose that. I knew that no matter how much I had, my character was rotten. I was still this horrible person despite it all. When I had to go to bed and think about my day and my life, I wasn't necessarily happy about how I was as a person. I didn't like the fact that I reacted negatively to most things. I didn't like the fact that I had such a negative and stinking rotten attitude. I didn't like that. Despite me living in beautiful homes and having money. I want to say this experience really made me a witness of what a lavish life with bad character is like. It's horrible, by the way. People who say money fixes all your problems are liars. And they're on drugs or drunk. Literally, like on drugs or alcohol. I do find that money is a tool and that it can be used wisely if you have the right character. But if that's where you base your identity, you make it everything, that's where it becomes wrong. So anyway, the quick side note is don't base your life, your character, on ego. This is building your house on sand, not on the rock. And I want to show you a very brief video as reference. Moral of the story, be humble. Outcomes of facing the truth. So let's just explore the outcome of facing the truth with ego. So as I mentioned before, ego stems from fear. And what does fear prompt? Negative reactions. Fear makes you clench. It tenses you up. Fear causes you to put up a wall. It disables you immediately. And in result, your heart or mind closes. You become stiff-necked, unable to hearken, to hear, to listen. Your heart and mind are hard and cold. It is no longer fertile, therefore growth is no longer possible. So, ego is very associated to fear. And We all know that when a person or anything is in a state of fear, it cannot react positively. So imagine the truth approaches a person filled with fear. This person naturally will not respond to it. Growth will not be possible for this person because it's not in a fertile state. It's not in a receiving state. In other words, when ego is faced with truth, it can't receive it, causing it to lose its chance of growth, healing, or in some cases, life. It's that intense. Ego cannot receive it, and it loses its chance for growth, healing, or life. Now, I compared truth to money. I mentioned how it is so rare and that its value is more than gold. If it already does not appear often, and the few times it may come in your life, and every single time you are faced with it and you are possessed by ego, you will never grow. This explains why there are adults, literal adults, who still act foolish, who act immature or childish, or who take ridiculously horrible decisions. Don't let that shock you. Now you know where it comes from and what it means. Anyways, that's ego. And in a minute, I'll describe truth, but do know it resists the proud. It resists ego. It has no pity for it. It will let it drown in the consequences it brought in itself. Like, truth literally has no remorse for ego. Like, a lot of people think that great or good things do not have a terrible side to them. That is so untrue. That is so untrue. Being a good person does not mean that you do not get upset. It does not mean that you do not have wrath. It does not mean that you don't have boundaries. It does not mean that you say yes to everything all the time. I'll throw an example. God. A lot of, especially religious people, have this wrong idea of God. They think that he's just this nice being that's a yes man. You know, he's very like kumbaya, peace to the world, everything is good. No. God is also very terrible. God also possesses anger. He will punish. He will reject. He will deprive. He will not answer you. So never ever get that confounded. Truth, anything that is great, also has a very strict side. Now, outcomes of facing truth with humility. As I mentioned earlier, humility stems from confidence. It has a healthy and realistic belief in hope, even when confronted with the unexpected. So when there is a person who is possessed by the spirit of humility, what does humility prompt? Contrary to ego, it prompts positive reactions. Humility makes you loosen up, relax, to let go. It gives the ability to surrender to what is. It is an enabler. In result, the heart and mind remains open. It remains still. It has a relaxing attitude. The mind and heart melts and has the ability to be refined. It has the ability to be changed. The mind heart is fertile and ready for growth. So when humility faces truth, it can receive it well. It receives an opportunity to grow, heal, and live without being defensive or arguing or shutting down. And truth, because it responds so well to humility and it loves humility, it really favors humility. As a gift, it gives the humility or the humble person rest assurance. Why rest assured? Because the truth is so in favor of humility. It literally loves it. It's attracted to it. It wants to exalt humility. As a gift, it gives the humble person security. Why rest assured? It will be answered in the description of truth, which I'm going to get into right now. Now that we know the two ways of facing truth and what these two outcomes look like, there's not much more to say about it. It's very straightforward. That's why it's not that long. Now we're going to focus on the truth. Let's talk about it a little bit. Let's describe it. Let's explore its nature a little bit. What can I say about the truth very quickly? Here's a fact. A fact we should be more than grateful about, literally thanking every single day, is that it exists. If the truth didn't exist, we would all be lost. There would be no room for growth, no room for improvement, no room for development, no room for hope, okay? So this is just a fact. Let's start with that first and foremost. Let's appreciate that there is a truth and that the effects of truth only produces growth, development, hope, and betterment. Think about it. People base their lives on what is true. You can't live a human life without accepting something as the truth, or you will just literally be completely lost. Even if it's not necessarily the truth, a person has to come to the conclusion that they find something to be true. People base their lives on what they believe is true. If you believe that going to school and doing this or that is the way to go, then that's what you do because you believe it. If you don't think that going to school is the way to go, then you don't do it. A very good way to determine what a person finds true is to see what actions and decisions they're literally making in their lives. So basically, you will live and make decisions based on that truth, which you consider to be the absolute. So if you're a person who genuinely believes that the way to go about life is to go to school, and that is your conviction, that's what you do. If you don't, then you take another route. With no truth or absolute, there is no reference. There is no guide. There is no map. There's no instruction. There's no voice or word to follow. You're literally lost. So going back to that question, why the humble can stay rest assured. Well, first of all, they're on a good start. Truth adores the humble. It already likes you. It already favors you. It resists the proud, but will love the humble. So you can already rejoice because the truth already likes you. You're already on its good side. So there's that. But also, because of the description, the characteristics of truth, which I will describe to you right now. So when we're speaking about truth, you have to see truth as this clean and orderly entity. It doesn't like confusion in its space. It's very, very big on keeping things clean, orderly, and pure. So naturally, in nature, truth is a purifier. It could also be compared to fire. That's why the truth sometimes burns, because it's burning away the lies that you tell yourself. It's burning away the delusions and illusions that you have that was helping you cope because you don't know how to face the truth. Truth can also be compared to light. A lot of people like to live in their darkness. They don't want to be told that they're doing something wrong. They want to continue to do the bad things that they do. Don't tell me that stealing is wrong. Don't tell me that cheating is wrong, because if you tell me, you're putting me on the spot, I have to take accountability, I have to be responsible. Light exposes darkness. So the truth is clean. It is orderly. It does not like confusion in its space, and it is a great purifier. It can be compared to fire. It can be compared to light. So you can already imagine that being next to the truth, that alone can be a lot. This is why the truth can be daunting. Very easily, it can make you feel like you're dirty, there's something wrong with you, like you're a bad person. But it's not trying to make you feel that way. You can't get mad at the fact that truth is just the truth, that it's solid. You can't get mad at the fact that it's so great. And again, only ego, and I really, really believe this. I genuinely believe that if you find yourself to be offended when someone says something, it's a great sign that there's still ego lingering in you, right? Because why would you get mad at someone or something that is great? You can't get upset and throw a fit just because someone's existence challenges you. Because the way that they choose to live is clean. Because the way that they choose to live is orderly. And that their presence exposes you because of their light. Or it burns you a bit because they're filled with fire. Whether you like truth or not, you need to learn to love it. You need to learn to respect it. And if you're not ready for it, I think it's a very healthy approach to at least start by admitting it. Like, okay, this is a little bit annoying, or I feel a little challenged right now, and it's making me uncomfortable, and I don't want to be faced next to it right now because of these negative feelings that I'm feeling. However, I'm not going to completely reject it because I can also admit that its qualities are admirable. That is more of a humble approach or way of thinking of the truth, right? Another characteristic of truth is loyalty. It is extremely loyal. One thing, listen, like I mentioned earlier, many things change. Opinions, theories, estimations, disagreements, etc. But truth does not change. It's loyal. It doesn't matter how crazy you get. It doesn't matter how off track you go. It doesn't even matter if you decide to reject it, hate it, spit on it, disrespect it. Because it doesn't change, you can stay away from it for 10 years. When you look back at it and revisit it, it's going to remain the same. Solid. So the truth is loyal, and my favorite part of it is that it is consistent. It is constant, unchanging, steadfast. It is the same at all times. Do you understand how, like, that quality alone is so reassuring? You know, that immediately gives us a sense of security. It doesn't matter how evil I get one day. It doesn't matter if I fail one day, or if I lose my ish, or I go ballistic, or I have a phase where I fall off track. When I'm ready to face the truth and I go back at it and I go, I'm sorry for what I did. Please tell me the truth. It remains the same. It remains loyal. It's not going to change or in other words, turn its back on you. It's still welcoming as long as you're humble. It still adores you as long as you're humble. It's still willing to help you grow, to help you develop, to mature as long as you're humble. It doesn't matter how deep in the wrong you've gone. The second you decide to repent or turn away from or change your mind on the matter and you approach it with humility, it's got your back. Its position, regard, or posture, or state, or quality is on habitual mode. Do you understand what I'm saying here? Like, it won't change. So, very quick side note, for those who are Christian, why? A question we should ask ourselves is, why do I doubt God's word? If I truly, in my core, believe that God is true and that everything he says is true, and that everything he says comes to pass, which history has shown on and on and on and on, and still does to this day, why am I worried? Why? If God said, I am the same yesterday, today, and forever, if he said that I've already forgiven you and that you have to humble yourself in order to be exalted, why is it that when you go deep into sin, you're afraid to look back? It's because you're too focused on the ego. You're too focused on yourself. You look at yourself more than you're focusing on the truth. So it's the same yesterday, today, and forever, okay? That's a great indicator and great characteristic of truth. If you meet a person who is pretty much unchanging and doesn't switch on you and is always open as long as you have the right attitude, they're most likely the embodiment of truth. And that's another thing that I want to mention about truth. A lot of people think it's just this abstract idea. No, honey, the truth is actually a person. It's an entity. You have to start seeing human beings as vessels, right? There are human beings who possess anxiety. Anxiety is its own entity. It's its own spirit. Some human beings, some walking vessels, possess determination, depression, hate, love. Truth is literally living and active. It's a life, as I said in the beginning. It's literally life. So there are people who are literally walking among us, who are the embodiment of truth. This means that you may meet the truth through a person. Truth can be met through words. You can hear the truth through songs, texts, books. You can hear it while someone is speaking in a podcast or in a radio show, but you can also meet the truth in person. And this fact should make you really think twice about how you treat people. Whether you think that they're important or not, have status or not, are famous or not, popular or not, remember that it hides in simplicity. It hides in plain sight. If you have this very entitled, prideful, and ego-filled mind, you look down on people for certain reasons. You might one day look down on the truth. So just be careful. Another thing about truth is that it guides you. It comforts you, it loves you, it supports you, and it stays accurate for you. One thing you can count on is the truth. Going back to my example of your last name or a tree. If somebody comes up to you and says, this is who you are, your last name is not such and such, no one can tell you otherwise. You already know who you are, and that's never going to change. That will always stay accurate no matter what people say on the outside, no matter what the arguments or opinions are, you know it's a fact. There's so much more I can say about the truth. Like, I can go on and on and on. There's so much more characteristics I can point out. But for now, I think we got a good idea of its nature with the few things that I've mentioned. But the most important thing that we must get from the truth is that it brings a security. Everyone wants to feel secure. Everyone wants to. Everyone is looking for security. Some people, unfortunately, don't have the truth in their lives, and they're not able to put their security in that. They put their security in other things. Some people put their security in finance, right? It brings a lot of money. It brings a good sense of security. As long as you have it, you're good. Some people put security in sex. You know, it keeps you linked to certain people, especially if you have children with them. It may give you a temporary sense of pleasure and sense of belonging, a sense that you are wanted. Even if it's toxic, people will stick through it because that's where they put their security, right? Without it, they feel insecure. Some people put their security in their looks. This is really big in today's age, especially. Actually, men are coming up there too, but men and women put their security in their looks. This is where they invest their money, their time, and all of their attention to. Without it, they're destroyed, right? The reason why that looks is a place where people put their security is because it attracts certain things. It's a great shortcut to access fast living lifestyles. It could bring a lot of what people believe is the answer to joy, peace, and happiness, right? Some people put their security in nature because it gives them a sense of connection with a creator. Some people put their security in God because they believe that their creator provides for all their needs. And this is why I mentioned earlier that truth can vary from person to person. Because truth is a security. It will help you out of what you consider to be trouble. If you consider having no money to be a form of trouble, you're going to place your security in money. If you feel that trouble is not feeling wanted or be sexually craved, you will put your security in sex. And that becomes your truth. That becomes your reality. If you find that trouble entails not being so attractive physically because you will no longer have access to opportunities and fast living lifestyles, you will put your security in the looks. That becomes your truth. I think you get the point, right? So truth, whichever truth you believe is true, is your security. It helps you out of trouble. Here's a biblical proverb to ponder on. Proverbs chapter 14, verse 25. A truthful witness saves lives, but one who breathes out lies is deceitful. Another good thing to know about truth is that truth has conditions. Yes, I said it. A lot of people think that something that is absolutely considered pure and good has no conditions. That's not true. There are conditions. Because if there were no conditions, then you would allow anything to come into the environment and that would spoil everything, right? Same applies to the human body. You're not going to let absolutely every substance enter your body because there are substances that aren't good. So you actually do have to have boundaries. You have to have a defense system. Truth is the same way. It has conditions, and funnily enough, it doesn't have many. It actually only has 2 conditions. The first condition is, humble thyself before it. The second condition, be committed to it. One requires humility, the other requires commitment. Which, by the way, very, very scary for a lot of people in our day and age. Very scary. These 2 conditions are probably the hardest things for human beings to do in the 21st century. Humbling yourself and staying committed to something. This is why marriage has decayed, morals have decayed, values have decayed. People don't want to humble themselves anymore. People can't stay committed. They can't. So let's dive into the first condition. Humble thyself before the truth. Truth, as I said before, resists the proud, period. It's really that simple. It's not really complicated. It just doesn't tolerate it. It doesn't tolerate lies. It doesn't tolerate defensiveness. It doesn't tolerate pride, entitlement. As soon as it senses that, it's gone. So if there's one way to make the truth flee, pride. But I will say, don't provoke it though. Don't provoke it. It doesn't always come by. It doesn't have to. That's entirely its choice. If it comes to you once, you had that chance. If it comes to you multiple times, you had that chance. And most times it doesn't only come to you once, but it may take years for you to encounter it again. And quick side note for my Christian fellows out there, think of the time you were in sync and in alignment with God. You felt the Holy Spirit, but you did something to disappoint it, to make it mourn and to go away, because you know its nature can't be around bad nature, right? It's like a dove. The dove can absolutely not be in environments that are disgusting, nasty, loud. It has a specific nature, and it's not even because it wants to be rude or mean or offend you. It literally can't tolerate certain natures. And a dove could not hang with a pig, because the pig has a completely, if anything, the very opposing nature of a dove. It can't, even if it loves you, even if it wants to be around you, if you are a pig and you like to hang in the mud, it can't come near you, right? So only nature truth can abide in is humility. Pride, it can't. So just don't provoke it. In other words, truth must absolutely receive humility. The second condition is to be committed to the truth. Words are not enough to be considered committed. It literally takes real life and active proof. Actions must follow your declared word. So you can admit and say and declare that you will be committed, but that's not enough for truth. Actions must follow your declared words. You have to be consistent. And what's very interesting about this is that not only does it require words, so you affirming it and declaring it and putting it into action, having actions following those words that you declared, it will go as far as test it. It does not let you in that easy, right? It's easy for someone to stay humble for so long. It's easy for someone to take in information pretty well and to certain extents. But can you stand the test of time? Can you stand the heat? Are you really deserving of the full truth? Do you understand what the full truth means, man? Listen, we live in a world where there are so many mysteries. We are mixed up with a bunch of information more than ever. Lies, delusions, illusions. And it's been this way for many, 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 many years. Most of humanity. Most of our lives, since Genesis, really. And you want to be given truth? It's not going to come easy. So going back to the word commitment. Commitment is the state or quality of being dedicated to a cause or activity actively. It's an engagement or an obligation that restricts freedom of action in order to stay aligned with it. That's why a lot of people don't like it. Commitment, according to Oxford Language Dictionary, is the state or quality of being dedicated to a cause or an activity actively. It's an engagement or obligation that does restrict other actions. And this is why a lot of people are very iffy and hesitant with commitment, right? So, for example, if you are in a marriage, that is obviously the greatest example of commitment, the very nature and source of commitment. The reason why, especially in today's age, marriage is not welcomed by most is because it will require you to remain dedicated to that cause, to engage with that activity or that person or that cause. And of course, naturally, because it comes with being committed, it restricts other actions. So in the case of marriage, it will restrict you from sleeping around. It will restrict you from having multiple partners. It will restrict you from cheating. It will restrict you from a lot of things that a lot of people aren't ready to let go of. According to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, commitment is an agreement or pledge to do something in the future. So, the word future already shows that it requires a long time commitment. It requires a long time of engagement. It's an act of committing to a charge or trust. This means you are held accountable, responsible for being a source of trust. This literally means that you become in charge of or become a source of trust. You're responsible for that. You're accountable for that. You now have to be a source of trust to a person. Heavy, right? Commitment takes dedication, it takes responsibility, it takes accountability. Words that a lot of people don't like to hear. And this leads us to the next quality of truth under the condition of being committed to it. It does not tolerate lukewarmness. It doesn't tolerate that. Either you're with it or you're against it. Either you get its full blessings or you don't get any at all. You cannot have one foot on one side and a foot on the other side. You cannot have your cake and eat it too. If you want truth to stand for you, you must be able to stand for the truth. You must believe in it, have faith in it first, then it will bless you. You have to commit to it, then you can benefit from it. You don't benefit from it, then commit. That's not the order. That is the wrong order. The order is commit, then benefit. Not benefit, then commit. If you want to team up or have a union, a relationship, or marriage with truth, make your commitment clear. And of course, that is a will, right? It will not force you. It will. That's one thing I do like about the truth. It will not force you, eh? It won't tell you, come here. You don't want it? Fine. You can't? Fine. You're not right? Fine. That's okay. Also, a good thing about truth is that it really respects freedom of choice. It respects your choice as much as it respects its own choice, right? It knows what it wants. It knows what is required. It knows the requirements a person has to have in order to allow it in, because truth is a powerful thing. And it's not going to diminish its quality or value because you don't feel like committing, right? Truth has no neutrality. As I said earlier, it's either in or out, black or white, hot or cold, yes or no. No lukewarmness. And again, this is what makes it so intense for a lot of people, right? Ego is based on lies, right? So sometimes when we're faced with certain truths or things that we don't want, things that we don't want to hear or not ready to face, it tends to lie. Remember, the ego, it's a self that isn't truly the real representation of you. So what it does often is that it starts to create these lies or illusions or delusions to make you feel better in the moment, right? So because of that, a lot of times when the truth appears, people think that the truth is trying to threaten them. People start pointing fingers at the truth. They start to hate the truth because you're threatening what the persona or reality that they would rather believe. So in many, many, many cases, truth is always the bad guy when in reality it is not. It's just being itself. It's being solid as it can, because it is. It's its nature. It's good. It's solid. It's light. It's fire. It's clean. It's proper. And it challenges people. So many, many times it gets a lot of negative responses. Just know that when it comes to truth, we know that there are two requirements. One, humbling yourself. Two, being committed. And it's in those moments where when the truth is being, first of all, already kind enough for showing up. It didn't have to, but if it does, if you're humble, you might feel the burns a little bit, but you're going, okay, although you're making me uncomfortable, I need you. I can admit that. Please help me make me better. I want to commit to you. I love you and I want to be around you because I know you're good for me. Whereas a prideful person or prideful spirit will feel the burn and reject it and be like, no, I don't want it. It's not forcing anything. However, it does have its requirements. And sometimes not only does the nature of truth piss people off, but people don't even like the fact that it has requirements. Especially in the 21st century, where people genuinely believe that you can do anything whenever you want and that everything is accepted, everything is normal, everything is equal. That is so wrong. This is why it's harder for people nowadays to be told anything. No one can say anything to anyone anymore because you say something against something that they want it to be true. You're an evil person. I don't want to hear you. You're attacking me. You're offending me, right? So it's in moments like this where your character is exposed and comes out the most. It's when truth comes at you and it's just standing there going, hey, this is when you're cornered. This is the moment that can make or break your life. Because one, it doesn't come often. And two, well, your response determines your outcome. So truth has its conditions. One, humble thyself before it. Two, be committed to it. So when we compare ego and humility, ego fears, puts up a wall, gives no will in embracing, which means it does not want to listen, which means it does not believe. It has no faith in what is standing in front of it. And I think this is something that's very important to catch. So let's say the truth faces a person with ego. Even if it is the truth, it cannot believe in it because it is putting up a wall. right? In order for a human being to believe in something, it requires a good amount of time of exposure to it. That's why brainwashing is very effective, because the way the human brain works is that if it is exposed to a certain information over time, for a long time, it eventually absorbs it. So if a person is facing the truth and ego is possessing that person, this means that as a response, because of its fear, it puts up a wall, which means it gives no will in embracing what the truth has to say, which means that it doesn't want to listen. And when a person doesn't want to listen, it's not going to believe in it. How are you going to believe in something that you don't want to listen to? How are you going to believe in something that you don't want to face? That's why I like to advise people, like, if you're dealing with a person who doesn't want to talk to you, don't force it. They've already made up their mind. What makes you think a person that is openly pushing you away or rejecting you is listening to you and will believe you? It already has made its decision. It's putting up a wall, is not showing a sign of will, the will of embracing what you have to say. It does not want to listen to you, which means it already made the decision that it's not going to believe you. It doesn't have faith in what is standing in front of it, right? So that's what happens when a person is possessed by ego. And when a person is possessed by humility, well, it behaves courageously. I think one of the reasons why the truth really embraces humility is because it's very courageous, and courageous is a very admirable trait. You know, someone could be shaking, someone could be nervous, someone could actually feel small, but because they're courageous, they still go through it. And I really believe that the truth appreciates that. So again, person possessed with humility is courageous. It puts its guard down. It shows that there is a sign of will, a will to embrace. And when someone is willing to embrace, it wants to listen. And when a person wants to listen, it chooses to believe. And when a person chooses to believe, that's when its faith grows in what is standing in front of it. So ultimately, ego and humility are both entities that possess a person and makes a decision for the person. If the truth confronts you one day and you're possessed by ego, I don't care how strong you think you are. If you have ego, you know where it's going. If you have humility, you know where it's going. So truth requires a humble, willing, listening, and faithful heart and mind for it to enter and share its blessings, to share its words, to share information that will be beneficial to the humble. Disbelief, which comes from ego, keeps you the same. You will not grow, you will not develop, you will not mature, whereas faith, belief, exalts you. So yes, truth has an interesting character. It's good to know about truth. It's good to get to know what truth is like so that you can start recognizing it. You can start familiarizing yourself with it. You can start to practice how to respond better, because it doesn't come immediately, right? When I got to a point in my life where I just wanted the truth and I wanted to be a truthful person and really live a truthful life, even though the will was there, it took me some time. Because I've accumulated really bad, prideful, entitled habits. One, because of the society that I live in and the times that we're living in. You know, it's the environment. If most people in the world behave a certain way, you're most likely going to become like that if you're not checking yourself. Right? So there's that. And it took a while because those habits had to be broken. So even though I had the will to live an honest life and, embrace honesty, anytime I did, because I was already possessed by a spirit of pridefulness or offense or anger, my first response would be, what? That's not true. And it took me a while to cool down and be like, wait a second, look at how you're responding. Is this the way you want to respond? No? Okay, so what are we going to do now? Are we going to humble ourselves and apologize about that behavior? Yeah? Okay, let's go from there. So it takes practice. It takes practice. Going back to the examples I gave earlier, like checking your grades, checking the text messages or the bills, telling someone you like them, and waiting for the rejection or the acceptance. Like in those little areas, sometimes we respond negatively. Sometimes when I get a grade and I find it to be very low, I'm like, what the hell? Is this person okay? Yo, they're discriminating. And it's like, that's the immediate response, right? But you have to learn to be like, calmate, breathe, let's be humble before we draw conclusions of our own. Let's talk it out. Let's reach out to the person. Let's try to understand. It takes work. It's a work in progress. So truth, as I said, has an interesting character. A character a lot of people are intimidated by and run away from because truth can appear to be too good to be true. You know, it has a very powerful, insanely powerful presence and requires a great amount of humility to stand before it or beside it without feeling insecure. It also requires a great amount of risk, right? It will ask that you trust it blindly, because it doesn't have all the time to explain itself, right? It will ask you to trust it blindly when it comes. Like when it comes through, it's literally going to be like, you're going to have to trust me on this one. Like, I'm not going to argue with you. I am the truth. This is the truth. Either you take it or leave it, right? So the truth is basically daunting and intimidating and high risk taking, because it will literally show up and be like, are you able to trust me? And you're just going to be there like, are you able to trust me? I said. Are you able to humble yourself when I can be of help or have the ability to exalt you? Can you do that? How long are you willing to go before it gets beautiful and easy? Because my presence is not going to be easy for you at first. There's a lot of things that you have to learn. There's a lot of things that you have to unlearn. There's a lot of things that you don't know of that may hurt your feelings, that may burst your bubble. Are you able or willing to be committed to me, to humble yourself to me, to stay committed before it gets beautiful and easy? Are you able to take the fire, burning sensation of the truth? Are you willing to be exposed by the light? How much are you willing to lose? Because some people don't know it, but the identity that they have created for themselves, 90% of it is an illusion. 90% of it is false. 90% of it is actually not them. What they thought was them was actually the ego. So, like mentioned before, a self that isn't reflecting the true nature of a person, but it's just an accumulation of different beliefs that you decided to believe on because it makes you feel better. Are you ready for that? Are you ready to have a lot of information or beliefs, convictions that you have shaved off? Are you ready to be stripped naked and be trained, be cleansed, be renewed and clothed in new clothing? How much are you willing to lose to gain? How much are you willing to do? How much are you willing to sacrifice? There's some ideas that you may have to let go of. There's some habits you might have to stop. There's some people you may have to cut off. There's some involvements that you have to opt out of. How much are you willing to do? How long can you stand the testing of truth? How long can you last? It's easy to say, yeah, I'll humble myself, because some people actually have that trait very naturally, but they just don't know how to stay committed. I feel like I'm one of those people. Like, very naturally, I can humble myself, but committing is a different thing. And some people, it's the other way around. They are very good at commitment, but humbling themselves is a little bit more difficult. And some people, they're just bad at both. But the truth will ask you, like, how long can you stand the test of truth? How long can you last? Because it's going to take patient endurance. You might get tired. Your energy will be tested. Your honesty will be tested. Your dedication will be tested. Your endurance will be tested. Your legitimacy will be tested. Your words will be tested. Everything about you is going to be tested. Think of it as like refining gold. That's what the truth does. Where do you find gold? In the dirt. It's not usually in the best conditions. You have to dig it in the ground. When you find gold, it's not clean. It's very dirty. It's in bad condition. It's not sharp. It's just in a really bad state. But you see the value in it. Once it gets taken up and placed in a room for refining, what does it have to go through? Fire. It's going to burn. There's going to be a lot of pressure. It's going to take a lot of testing. It's going to take a lot of shaping, refining. Once that's done, that's when the value of that gold that was found on the ground is determined. So it takes a lot of testing and time. Truth can also ask you, can you take the consequences during trials as much as you can benefit or inherit from the blessing? You know, it's easy to go, I love you, because the benefits are so nice. Because the inheritance of truth is very rich. It's very plentiful. But are you able to suffer the consequences during the trials as much as you can enjoy the benefits? Can you take people laughing at you? Can you take people thinking you're crazy? Can you take people thinking you're mad or insane? Can you take loneliness? Can you take isolation? Can you take hardship? Can you suffer with truth so that you can later take up its glory? Again, it's high demanding, high risk. It's asking you to be humble. It's asking you to commit. It might require you to let go of people in your life, to change your lifestyle, to quit bad, toxic habits that you secretly enjoy. It might require you to take greater decisions, to face very complex problems that you've never wanted to face before. It may require you to transform into a whole new person. It depends, right? If the truth finds you in a state where not most of your identity is delusioned or lies, which is very rare, it usually requires you to transform you completely, by the way. In other words, to reign with truth, you must be willing to suffer with it and still love the totality of truth. You know, you think of like relationships. When you're thinking of a partner, you're not looking for a partner who doesn't know how to humble themselves and take accountability, who can't stay committed. You want to know that this person is going to hang, is going to be there until the end, right? It's the same with truth. It requires the same thing. You can't get mad at truth for requiring these things when it's the very same things that we all want, that you want, right? So humility isn't easy. Not a lot of people have it these days. Good luck finding that in 2023, soon 2024. I don't know about y'all, but I'm definitely not settling for anything less than total truth. I have gotten scars, damages, traumas, literally and figuratively blood loss, heartaches, mental, physical, spiritual diseases from compromising with the truth when I knew about the truth and for not facing it well. When it appeared, personally, I've learned my lesson. So if you're with me and you're on board with me, I welcome you. It's a very hard journey, but it's so meaningful. It's so worth it. The worst part I'd say about finally submitting to the truth is when you think you got it, when you think you've really absorbed everything it's telling you, it'll go, excuse me, honey, where do you think you're going? We're not done here. You still need some reality checks. You call that humble? Oh, honey, we're only on page 2 of 95. You still got a lot of cleaning and purging to do. You have a great and immense pileup of pride that can only be eliminated by the fire that you're trying to avoid. I don't know where you think you're going. Unless you're telling me you want to tap out? Oh, no, wait. You can't. Because you said that you were committed. You know? So just be prepared for that. There are times where you think you got it and you're like, yeah, I'm here now, like, what? Let's go. And it's like, oh no, there's more. So just be aware of that and don't be surprised if it happens to you. This is a friendly warning that I'm sending you guys. You know when like you're driving on the highway and you'll see cars make signal to let you know that there's police ahead? You know, because they're just doing, they're being cool. They're letting you know instead of you finding out the hard way, right? And paying for it, this is what I'm doing. I think a very important thing to pull from today when it comes to the character of love is to know that truth is love and love is corrective. Think of your parents or someone in your life who truly cares about you. Do you think, and my dad used to use this as an example all the time, he'd say, if you guys saw me with crap on my forehead or on my head and I'm about to leave the house, would you guys tell me? Even if it might offend me, even if you might be afraid of offending me, would you do it? And that's the idea here. Love, real love, will prioritize your well-being before its fear of being rejected, disliked, or hated. It'd rather risk that to help you, right? So I'm sure some of you can relate. I've had some people whom I have been honest to. And, if I see something in them that I find that if I point out can better them, 8 times out of 10, I don't get a good response. And I end up losing the person, right? The ones who finally submit to the truth or are ready for it, later down the line usually react well if we cross each other again. But most time, I'm telling you, it's a rare trait. It's a very rare trait. Most times it doesn't like it. But regardless of all that, truth does not care. It's corrective. That's what love is. This might offend you. This might hurt your feelings. You might feel self-conscious temporarily, but you need to know, like, this is not okay, or this is wrong, or you're going about it the wrong way, or you look dumb, right? If you have people in your life who only flatter you or only tell you what you want to hear, just know that that's a red flag. They're probably doing it because they want to make fun of you. Maybe you have a benefit that they need in their life. They're willing to tell you anything that you like to stay in your life. They may be doing it because they just want to play games with you. Or they may be doing it because they're as blind. Not everyone is technically out there to just get at you, although most people do, because it's a very competitive world we live in. Some people are just as lost as you. Going back to what I said, truth is love. Love is corrective. Truth doesn't try to change you. It just wants to let you know, hey, you could do better. I want better for you. And if you're willing, I'm here and I can help you transform. It's not forcing you. It's not pressuring you, which a lot of people have the impression it's doing. No, you're mixing up pressure with powerful presence. They're two different things. So yeah, if you want to know if someone loves you, see how honest they can be with you. That's another hint of recognizing the truth. Okay, guys, this is literally only 5% of what I have to say about the truth, but I wanted to warm up, I wanted to speak on it because in order to address something, you just have to speak on it. Freestyle, say whatever you think, feel, know, etc., etc. So this session may have not felt as organized, but this is just us laying the conversation on the table. It's just meant to get you to think a little bit of what the truth is, how you view the truth, go back in your life and analyze, do I respond to the truth well? Do I respond to the truth negatively or positively? Can I better the way that I respond to the truth? Am I responding with ego, humility? Which one of these entities or spirits are in control of the outcomes, the permanent outcomes of my life? In other videos concerning the truth, I can emphasize more on some of the titles I've discussed today. Like, for example, I can emphasize on actual outcomes, how they look like. I can give more real-life, day-to-day examples. Whatever you feel like you need more emphasis on, let me know, either in the comment section or by email. But yes, that's it, y'all. So we're going to close this conversation. Quick recap. This video was focused on facing truth. The main themes were facing truth, the ways of facing truth, outcomes of facing truth with ego or humility. We described the characteristics of truth and its conditions and requirements. In addition, we went over some tips, advice, and real-life examples. In the breadth of facing truth, you learned that the response to truth determines the outcome of your life. In the breadth of ways to face truth, you learned that there are only two ways to respond to truth: ego, humility. In the breadth of facing truth, we learn that when we're facing it with ego, it comes from fear, which causes closed-mindedness, which hinders growth and prevents blessings. And if we react with humility, it stems from faith, and that it is a powerful confidence, a humble confidence, which produces an open mind and heart, quickens growth, and receives blessings. In the breadth of description of truth, we learn that truth equals security. Truth is an absolute, it's a guide, it's a point of reference. It is secretly what everyone wants because it provides the best security in the world. Loyalty, love, no deception, consistency, security, correctiveness, it saves. But it is not easy to please, submit, or commit to. Which brings us to the last part, which are the requirements of truth. There were two conditions. The first condition is humbling thyself before it. The second condition is being committed, showing full commitment and no lukewarmness. I hope you leave this session inspired to actively and humbly practice facing the truth every single day. I hope it inspires you to think about your character, your life, your reaction, the atmosphere that you are creating in your life and in the lives of other people you're connected to based on the truth. I hope it gets you to think about the difference between ego and humility, lies and truth, while you are here still alive and active, especially because some of us are alive but don't have the ability to be active anymore. So if you have both, first and foremost, you're blessed. You have so many opportunities to practice the truth every single day. Every day that you wake up, there is a chance for you to practice the truth and get better at it. And honestly, there is no grace than to see another day. Waking up, basically means that you are in a position where you have the chance to make it right. You know, when you die, you die. That's it. Death is a whole other truth. That's a form of truth. If death, that form of truth, faces you and you don't have the right spirit within you, it's not going to end well for you in the after death. So when you wake up, know that that is 100% pure grace, that you're seeing another day. This basically represents, it translates into, you have another chance to make it right. There is no grace like waking up in the morning. Every day that you wake up, you can practice this starting small. Practice the small things like I've mentioned earlier. Checking your grades as soon as they're posted, opening text, emails, bills, being vulnerable about how you feel, assessing your health, asking people to be honest with you, speaking up for yourself, being willing to fail and look like a fool in front of others, being yourself even if it prompts criticism or rejection. If you feel like crying, cry. If you feel like dancing, you dance. If you feel like saying something, say. Better for you to make mistakes, but you're being your true self. With time, you'll learn to be better. There's nothing worse than lying to yourself and living in a delusion and living off of ego. Be honest and learn to take honesty. This is the point of our existence. You are not doing not only yourself, but everyone a favor in doing so. When you are being honest, you are actually benefiting not only you, but those connected to you. You represent a truth. You represent a message. You are a walking testimony. When people look at you or interact with you, they take you in for whatever you're presenting. And if you are not presenting the real you, don't you find that selfish? That another human being has the chance to make connections about the world. You may help another human being really grasp the world for what it is, but you're not doing your job by being honest. If you ask me, I don't think that's fair. I repeat, you represent a message. You represent a walking testimony. So do well with that. You have something to bring to the table, and it must absolutely be served. No one in this world wants to be in error or deceived, or live a life that is based on falsehood, because if we find ourselves in that situation, we know where that ends up. It ends in destruction. That's very, very hard for people to take. That's it kills the mind. It really hurts. Being yourself helps you and others embrace the totality of human experience. It's the primary purpose of our life. Literally, the primary purpose of our lives is to be real. When I'm being myself, yeah, I may disappoint a person here and there, but at least they know this is what's out here in the world. And if you think that everything is la vie en rose, or you think that life is like Disney movies, well, I'm going to gladly let you know that no, honey, this is the truth. This is the truth. So I insist, practice these acts. All these chances, all these opportunities, like the, examples of small ways to practice truths, consider these things like quizzes that are preparing us for the great final exam, which is the full truth, the totality of truth. If you don't learn how to respond positively to something as small as receiving a bad grade, being yourself, handling pressure, peer pressure, not assessing your health, how in the world are you going to be prepared to face bigger truths? Globally, we've all faced the truth of the COVID-19 pandemic, and a lot of people didn't take that well. It exposed us. How are you supposed to take in a big truth if you can't overcome the small ones? So this is why I really emphasize this subject. I just want you guys to see that these little chances and opportunities are like quizzes preparing us for the great final exam. Life in itself is the training ground. This is the school ground. You don't only get tested when you're in elementary or high school or university. That's not where it stops. The test and the quizzes and the final exam coming down the line for humanity is coming, and it doesn't stop there. You want to be able to stand the test and pass so you can receive your crown of life at the final exam. And although the truth is not the easiest thing, otherwise our world wouldn't be in the state that it is in today, right? If the truth was easy, we wouldn't face all these human issues. Even though the truth is not the easiest thing, it isn't impossible to reach. It just takes humility and commitment. Just be humble and accept the truth about the truth. That truth is that the truth is challenging, but good for us. That's it. So, as an encouragement, I just want to say whenever it does get tough, just remember that the way up is down. The fall is necessary for the rise, and before honor is humility. Whenever you feel crushed, whenever you feel embarrassed, whenever you feel uncomfortable or lesser, when you've made a very honorable decision that may feel like it's not paying off right away, remember that. If you are humble enough, you can admit you want to live righteously. I do believe, deep down in my heart, people do wish that they can live righteously. That's why jealousy is a thing. Some of us were born in certain circumstances that already have us facing life circumstances that we never asked for. It leaves some of us behind, and we see other people living with good opportunities and this and that. And you wish you can live righteously. You wish you can have certain, you know what I mean? You have to admit these things. There's no shame in admitting that you want better, that you want a good life. In fact, I find that it's easier for people to just deny it, reject it, run away from it, or be a coward and not admit it, than people who can admit and be like, you know what, yes, sometimes I feel like life is unfair. I feel like I don't get the same opportunities as people, and I wish my life was better. Listen, life is suffering for everyone. It's the great curse of man. Let me ask this question. Do you find it logical to build a life on lies? To have that as your foundation, ego, pride, to live a life based on an identity or a self that isn't really you. Do you find that logical? Does that sound like a good deal to you? Like, okay, I may get temporary doses of pleasure, power, money, status, this and this and that, but in exchange, I'm not fully myself, or I am fully myself and I find my true identity, but I just have to wait a little longer because my standards are higher. And my reward is long lasting. In fact, I'm going to make a video on this subject, but this is actually one of the main reasons why our whole world is going through an identity crisis. This is why people don't know who they are. This is why they join any kind of community. It's because people are lost. But we'll keep that for another video. What I want to focus on right now is life is suffering for everyone. It's the great curse of man. Do we really find it logical to suffer in vain? To build a life based on some things that are not entirely true? Does that sound like a good deal to us? If righteous living sounds appetizing to you and you want to explore it, or you want to think about it before humbling yourself to it and committing to it, you need to meet a standard to have access to it and to taste it. That standard is facing truth with humility. You need to be prepared to face the truth. You need to be prepared to respond to it rightfully. Okay, I'll leave you guys with that.